Hello, friends. It has been a minute since I have recorded a podcast or uploaded a video. I am finally back home. Ooh, that was not pretty. I'm finally back home in the States after 10 months of traveling. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, about my experiences and what I'm taking from those experiences and how I'm applying to life currently, and maybe how you can apply those too, kind of skip the experiences and just go straight for the take homes. And and so I'm back, and I have to say, it's been an adjustment. It's definitely been an adjustment. I've been back for maybe 2.5 weeks. Maybe it's going on the third week, which feels insane. So I took a bit of a break on the podcast as I was traveling at the end. Some of you may have been following along on my personal Instagram page. I was living in a van in Australia and doing some other things and then my computer screen broke. So it just wasn't conducive to podcasting. So currently I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, staying with my sister. That is where I am currently. And I still have a lot of travels coming up just in the States, seeing lots of friends and family in the current, in the next coming weeks. So what I want to talk about is what I have kind of learned, from these different travels, and obviously how to apply this. So I was thinking about this on my plane ride home from flying from Sydney to Charlotte, which is just like, you just feel like you're traveling for like weeks. It just feels like such a long travel time. So I was like pondering this. I was like, what did I learn? Like, if this is like the end of this chapter, kind of like the wrapping up of this season of my life, which actually it doesn't quite feel like that. Sometimes you might resonate with this, where it feels like I'm still very much in the season of this chapter, even though it feels like it's like, okay, are we complete? But this just has, I guess, what speaks to how I'm feeling about still feeling very called to being nomadic. So it doesn't feel like I'm in any place to settle down. I say that, very loosely, but any place to say, okay, this is where I'm home. This is my home base. You may know that like I don't really have a home base. Like I say that I'm home, but home just means that I'm back in my home country. I don't have a physical home. I still have my things in storage. We'll still keep the things in storage, and just kind of hop around as I have been doing the last 10 months. So it feels like very much that this phase is like kind of not really complete, but I think it's really important in any kind of phase, or even at the end of the month. I think reflection is really important. And since I am back to the States, it felt like such a period of time where I was like, I really want to reflect back on all of the things I have gathered over the past 10 months. And, reflection is huge even within the whole process. So even when I had gone from different countries, before I'd go to the next country, I would reflect what I learned, and what I was taking away, and what I was leaving behind, and what I was really bummed about leaving behind. And so reflection is like a huge thing that has been very prevalent within these months. And it's allowed me to actually look at life differently, since when I was in a different country, it just felt like, such a specific season or chunk of my life. So it was like, okay, we spent 2 months in Bali. Boom. We spent a month in India. We spent a month in Nepal, and we'll touch on all of those. But it just felt like, I feel like sometimes back home, like when I was just working day to day, it can feel like the months just kind of blend into each other. And you're just like, whoa, I can't believe that month just flew by. I can't believe, what month it is it? And, you just chunk summer together, and you kind of, oh, sorry, that's a little sound in the background. And you kind of just So you kind of just feel like they mush together. And what I felt like traveling did was it helped me like really solidify like that season, that chapter, that month. And it was just very distinct. Like it felt like it was not something that just like flew by, where I just was so busy and didn't really recognize. Like it chaptered my life because I was in vastly different areas. So it like, when I remember, a certain month, I remember a certain country, and it just feels very like vivid of like, whoa, that month was this. And so that was like actually a huge thing that like I would like to continue to do, even if I'm not in different areas every month, different countries every month. But it's like, it kind of lets you reflect back to be like, wow, we can reflect every month to see like, what did I see? What did I do? What changed within me? Where do I want to go next? Like what feeling or what color was the month? We can kind of categorize and chunk these periods of time, I guess. And time is so obscure, right? It's just like it's not as linear as we think it is. So I think it's really helpful to kind of think about time other than like minutes and days and months, but rather the feeling of it and giving it different textures and kind of dimensions of it, because that's what really it is. So when we can kind of separate, and I wasn't planning on talking about time like this, but this is just where we're going. But I feel like that was something huge that had shifted with me, having the opportunity to travel so much, is that it let me look at time so differently. Like I had so much time to do anything and everything that I wanted. And in reality, we all do, but sometimes we can limit ourselves of like, oh, I don't have time for that, or I don't have time for this, X, Y, and Z. I don't have time. There's not enough time. There's not enough hours in the day. And there's just like these beliefs that we hold against it. Like we get to choose to stretch time. We can choose to, really be in the moment, which stretches that present time. Anyways, so it was really starting to like have me reflect specifically on how I was looking at my life in general, and how much just that kind of shift of being different places helped me shift to say like, wow, I can actually chunk my life, chunk my months, my weeks in these different kind of sections, like I did when I was traveling. So that's like a big thing that I have taken from that chapter too, because it doesn't feel like such this like mesh of, life, where it doesn't feel like it feel like all blends together. Like sometimes you're like, what did I even do that year? Like everything just kind of blended together. My days looked the same. I was doing the same things. I was in the same routines and such and such. And that's how like life can really pass us by. And when I was traveling and feeling like such like I was in new environments and new settings, doing new things all the time, which like kind of makes you really be more aware. It makes you be more present, because you have to be aware of your surroundings when you're traveling. You're taking all this newness, all these different smells and sounds and structures and how things are done and customs. And it really makes you be really super present, because it's so different than what you experience back home. So that allowed me to feel like these past 10 months felt like years. Like even how I feel within my own self, my own observations, how I operate within my own thinking mind feels like, when I had left, it feels like years of growth, years of different ways that I've been untangling my different thought processes and how I perceive things, what my perspective is. It's just at a very different vantage point, which traveling really helps you do that. Like when you are kind of stuck in that zone of that day to day, it's really important for us to be able to zoom out. And I feel like when we can zoom out, then it's like you get a different perspective on your life. You're like, whoa, I can actually look at that so differently. Or wow, I actually don't really like what's going on right now. I would like to change what's going on right now. I don't really like how I'm feeling, or I like how I'm feeling. So I think having perspective, taking time to look back and reflect, and zooming out, all those things are I would say the biggest what do you call it? Like overview of what I have learned, what I've gathered. Like those are the biggest. Like if I zoom all the way out, it's like how I perceive time, how much reflection is important, and really how I want to like incorporate that to my life moving forward. Because that's what sometimes a trap can happen. You go on vacation, you go on a trip, you're like, wow, that was so different. Maybe you listen to a podcast, you're like, oh, I didn't think about life that way. And then you get back into your day to day, and then you just go about your regular 9 to 5 things. You kind of slip back into your own mindset. You kind of forget those feelings that you felt on vacation that you wanted to bring back home, and you can kind of slide back into that mainstream rut. So I guess in part of the reflection, for me, why it's really important is so that doesn't happen. So when I reflect and think about all the things and ways that an experience has changed me, it allows me to be like, okay, this is how it's changed me, and this is how I can also apply it to my current life. Because what are we doing with experiences and learning if we're not actually applying and using it in our day to day? Like that's like then it's just kind of nonsense coming in and out of one ear out the next. So I feel like applying, and this is why integrating is so important too, of anything that you're learning, processing, any healing that you're doing, like integrating those things within your actual system, within your day-to-day is so important because of that. So that's the big zoom out of what I've taken away. Individually, I jotted down a few notes about what first came to my mind when I was thinking about the different countries and different experiences and what that has like pulled for me. And so if you're just starting on this and you really have no idea what my journeys have been, I had I guess it was last year, I had sold my house and put things in storage and booked a one-way ticket to Bali. So that was really all the planning that I had done. I only knew that I had a one-way ticket and a 30-day visa to Bali, and that was just the only plan I had. I had no idea how long I was going to be gone for. I didn't know where I was going to go next, how long I was going to stay in Bali. So my first destination was Bali. I ended up being there for 2 months. And when I think about that experience, when I think about that first country, it was just so much excitement, like so much nervousness, like, it was, and I talked about this on a previous episode about how I had to just take baby steps when I had first landed in Bali, and my baby step to like adjust to being in another country alone. I had to like, okay, all you have to do is go downstairs. All you have to do is walk to the street. You don't have to talk to anybody. I was so nervous and I had no idea what to expect being away. And I just was like a little baby bird, just like trying to figure out its wings and trying to figure out like, okay, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? Was this a massive mistake? What am I doing? So I remember that nervous energy so vividly. And it really only lasted like barely a couple of days, because then once you start doing the thing, you go outside, you're talking to people, like go to a cafe, like you start experiences. Things are way less scary than what we build it up in our minds. Like, I'm like, wow, this is actually way easier than what I thought it was going to be. I made up all of these things, of these weird possibilities that could have happened, and none of them are happening. So when I think about that first experience in Bali, I remember that freshness, that newness, that excitement, that buzz of like, wow, I'm doing it. Like I had always thought about doing a trip like this. And it just was quite surreal that I was actually across the world, like doing it. And when I think about that time, I think about a lot of dance and play and joy and music and sex and just beach and just so many different things that was just so like shocking. It's like the visual it gives me is just like, I guess maybe because of my medical background, which is a little bit morbid right now, but it's like when you have somebody code and their heart is doing something wacky, or maybe you've got a flatline or whatever, someone's like ready to kick the butt. and you have the paddles on, and you initially, or not in movies paddles, but like in real life, they're like the stickers. You just put the stickers on, and that initial shock to the body jolts you, hopefully awake the first time. And that's literally what it felt like. It felt like that season was this jolt to my soul, to my system, to my body, to this physical experience, to this earth life, to all the other lives. Like, it just felt like such this, electrical jolt of being like, whoa, this is why I'm fucking alive. This is why I'm here. I'm here to experience. I'm here to have joy. I'm here to meet people and learn and feel and taste and touch, and just really lean into all of like the those experiences that we're here to have on earth, like to really enjoy. And so that's what I feel about that. I would go out dancing a lot. I'd go to beach clubs, and at that time I was still kind of partying a little bit, and having fun with it. I have a different relationship with alcohol now, but I feel like I remember this young kind of energy of myself too, and how it was so like just so fresh. So that's what that season was. That's what that felt like, and it reminds me now to anchor into play and into joy, and how to not take things so seriously. Like, it was like, what do I want to do today? Do I want to swim? Do I want to take a walk? Do I want to go out to a cafe and meet somebody new? It just was like all this newness, and looking at things in such a different lens of like, oh, I can meet so many people and have different experiences and things. And so when I pull that into my life currently now, it's like, okay, I'm in a new area. I haven't been to Charlotte. I don't really know Charlotte. Let's go to a coffee shop and see if I can meet somebody. Like, let's bring that same mentality to here, to now. And it's like that welcoming in the gifts of the universe. This is what it reminds me of being able to be like, okay, I am accepting and open to new energies, whether that's new friends, new opportunities, new work, new job, new people, anything that is that in that newness energy lets us draw that in when we're open. Whereas if you're like closed off and be like, don't look at me, I'm here to do my own thing, like, and not so open, you're just energetically closing yourself off of anything, even if you're like, oh yeah, I want a new friend, but I want a new job opportunity. Well, that really doesn't check, because you're just closing your energy off, and you're saying that like, oh, I'm closing off to friends, but I want a new job. But it's like confusing for the energy, because it's just your energy. It's just like that energy, that frequency. So it's like, if you're closed off to one area, you're going to close off to all the other areas. So if you need to be open to it all. So this is what that is how can we be open to the energies in our life right now? How can maybe you apply that to, yourself, of like, how can I play more? How, when is the last time I danced? When is the last time I went up to somebody in a coffee shop and was just like, hey, what are you up to? Strike a conversation. Like, I have made the best friends, and I've had the best connections by sitting by somebody and just saying like, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? And this is like, I think one of the biggest worries that people have, let me pause this.